Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Brianna Delaval. I'd like to introduce our guest speakers really quickly. So we have Dr. Beverly, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yes, hi everyone. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Beverly, Director of Behavioral Health Sciences and licensed psychologist and counseling faculty at South Mountain Community College.
And then Professor Johnston.
Hi there, Joey Johnston. I'm here at Chandler-Gilbert. I'm part of the music faculty and so excited that Brianna and Manuel have taken this adventure, and it's going to be a special night. I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Manuel, if you'd like to introduce yourself. You're muted.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Manuel Valenzuela. I'm a political science student at Mesa Community College. I'm part of the Student Public Policy Forum and the Model United Nations. Brianna is going to give you guys a little bit more information on our program. We're excited that you're here. It's been in the works for at least 3 months, so I hope this is as beneficial to you guys as it will be for us. So thank you so much for being here, everybody.
Yes, thank you guys so much. So a little bit about myself. I'm a piano major currently, and I hope to study music therapy at the university level. And we're going to talk about SPIF a little briefly. So it's the Student Public Policy Forum. It's kind of like a political science and advocacy type class, and it's district-wide. So we get to work with students from all of the campuses. It's so diverse, and I love hearing all the different perspectives. And this is one of our events that we planned, and we chose the topic of mental health for our advocacy plan. And so it's really relevant, especially to me. I think during COVID, it's been immensely hard for so many people. There have been so many lives lost. And so we're happy to put this together just so we can, come together, spread some positive energy. And mental health's really important to me because I dealt with a lot of things in high school. Everything kind of snowballed. I had some friends who actually attempted suicide, and we were going through depression and anxiety. And to know that those people are still here today because of connections we made, I think connection is the most important thing. And so the fact that you guys are here, it means so much. And please don't be afraid to reach out. We'll have a Q&A later. Please ask all your questions. And don't be too hard on yourself. I think everyone is so hard on themselves. So just be who you are, accept yourself, and just love who you are and be kind to other people. And I think that's the best thing you can do. And without further ado, I'll transition to Manuel, and he's going to talk a little bit about his story.
Thank you so much, Brianna. So again, we know it's been a hard year for everyone. As Brianna said, there's some people have lost more than others, unfortunately, and our lives change abruptly in just a matter of a few months. I'm going to share a little bit on how my life changed, which is part of what actually inspired us to put this together. The impact of COVID, I don't know if you guys saw on one of the first slides, but I actually worked in a hospital before I came back to school for political science. The impact that the COVID had on our hospital, the increasing in deaths and how much it was impacting the nurses, the hospital staff, our community. So it was just within a matter of months, the regulation changed. They cut our employees' hours. So that was just my professional aspect and how that changed. In my personal life, my life changed completely as well. My mom came to live with us. We thought it was suiting since COVID it was so unknown, and we wanted to keep her safe. She's very vulnerable to the virus due to some personal conditions, and it was very frightening for us. So I actually moved out of my house so that my sister and her were safe, and I needed to keep working. Another aspect of it was school. As you guys know, every student that is here, everything went online, and that I gotta say that wasn't healthy for me. I became a part of the Student Public Policy Forum, and we were supposed to travel to Washington, D.C., and of course that was canceled. Model United Nations, we would actually be traveling to the San Francisco this weekend, but that also didn't happen. And there was a United Kingdom study abroad program that I got a partial scholarship for that as well got canceled. So for a year of my life, I had plans. Finally, at 29 years old, I had plans for my life, and it all changed abruptly. So I personally wasn't prepared for this. My mental health took a toll. So I started writing again at night. I started going to therapy. My family lost friends. My mother lost her sister, and I was just desperate to find ways. in which to stay positive. So these personal experiences are what inspired us to be here with you guys today. We know that there's stigma around expression, even in my family, in our communities, and so we think it's important for you guys to find your way in which you can express yourselves. So again, hopefully this is beneficial to you guys, and I'm gonna pass it over to Brianna. She's gonna give you guys a little bit of more information on Professor Johnston from CGCC. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Manuel. As heartbreaking as his story is and how similar it is to so many people's, I think it propels us to work harder to connect with other people, because we wouldn't have been able to put this together if we hadn't shared our hardships together. So I think it's really important to be open about that. And I want to introduce Professor Johnston. He is my music professor right now. I love him. He's amazing. And he is a music faculty lead at Chandler-Gilbert. And he is currently the director of choral and vocal studies and the musical theater program as well. And he was actually named a Mentor Teacher of the Year by ASU. And he's very personable. He always asks his students to call him Joey. And he's so caring. He gives us like mental and emotional check-ins during our music theory classes. So it's just really fun. And he really does care. He cares about our education, but also us as people. And I think that's the most important thing that you can do as a teacher. And so I'm really excited to introduce him. And of course, he's extremely talented as a musician. So I hope you enjoy what he has to say.
Wow, Brianna, thank you so very much. Both of you, those are extremely powerful stories of what's going on right now in this real world. And our hope today is that we can give you some tools to find that happiness and that well-being through all this struggle and on. We're in a good place. We're moving forward right now. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. So, all right. So as we look here, that title, The Art of Expression and Mental Well-Being, that's what we're looking at. We're trying to figure out how the arts help us throughout this time, wherever we are, before COVID, after COVID, all the things, they matter. This whole week is dedicated to gratitude and self-care throughout the district. And this was a comment. You're going to see a lot of comments on here and quotes from my friends. I decided to involve everybody in this process. So this is not information directly from me. It's just everyone around me that I've surrounded myself with. And one of these comments they made is, making time to play and create art is one of the best forms of self-care. So I went on the internet on Facebook and I asked this question. And one of your first assignments right now, I want everyone to take a look at this question. How has expressing art affected your mental well-being? Whether it's music, dance, theater, art, photography, you name it. And we'd love to see some of your amazing comments of how you express art and how it affects you in this process. And as soon as I put that up, tons and tons of these beautiful comments came flying. And they weren't just one sentences, they were like massive paragraphs, because this is something positive and something we're looking at and we're building upon right now. It's time to get healthy. So for all of us. So I'm going to show you just a little bit, while you write some of those comments, I'm going to show you a video of my choir singing, and you'll see some of the comments that I received on Facebook in this video. So go ahead, Mike. Yeah. So I think my favorite part right there is even when the shadows fall, you don't walk alone, and no matter what. And maybe that's your. I want you to feel like you can surround yourself with beautiful friends, environment, and different opportunities. So take a look at this little quote. It basically talks about, our job isn't here to make life blissful for you 100%, right? But we're going to try to give you some tools that you can tap into when you're in that spot and you need to focus or get yourself back on track. Chaos is surrounding you, and what do you do and how do you get there? That's one of the biggest things I want to focus on right now, to get us all centered on the best part of who you are and how we get there. This Stephanie Ball, who made this quote, is one of my past students. She performed throughout Europe in an opera career and solo voice, and right now she's a life coach, and she's deep into this world of taking care of others and helping them organize their lives. And this is such a beautiful comment. I asked her to make a quote for me, and she said, the real magic comes when a person discovers how art can help them get in tune with their values and their purpose. She goes on to say, tapping into your artistic self opens up space for extraordinary healing to occur. And it really does. When we find that art and that connection, that's where we grow, that's where we heal, and that's where we become more ourselves, and something we can rely on. So I was talking to a counselor about a certain student that was struggling during this time. And after we were done talking, she made a comment to me. She says, create a beautiful day. And that was her goodbye. Say, create a beautiful day. And it just really stuck in my head. And I realized that every single day is a blank canvas. We get to start, make it fresh every minute. It doesn't even have to be a day. It starts right now. And from here on out, it can be beautiful. And you can paint it however you want. And you can imagine what you want, make memories. Our life in itself is a work of art and an expression. This right here is a picture from a high school that during COVID, they met and they had all the students basically paint pictures on these fiddles of hope and what gave them hope during COVID, during the pandemic. And as you see, these beautiful, beautiful pictures express so much of the students' lives. Rather than turning it into something negative, they turned it into something positive and beautiful by just picking up a paintbrush and going after it. So be the hero of your story if you can, from Big Fish. I'm going to help you try to be your own hero here. And what I want you to do is, if you do not have to be a solid musician, a poet, photographer, that doesn't matter. If you want to write a song, go ahead, write a song, pick up some lyrics, write some poetry. I cannot tell you how much that has healed my life. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was struggling, and I sat down and wrote some words that basically got me through that time period. And I wrote a song to it, and I've shared that song with many people. It's a very personal experience and adventure that I had in my life. If you get a chance, take photos. We have a colleague here on campus that I work with. He spent time at Mount St. Helens doing basically its own art project, and it helped him get through PTSD and discover how he could work stronger and build his own life. And photos. I go out and I take pictures of flowers. That's my new thing. That's how I got through COVID. Whenever I saw a flower, I took a picture. And I know my wife's annoyed that I share those. I always talk about flowers, but that's what I do now. I love flowers. They bring me peace. So, yeah. And when I was in high school, my theater director would give us a blank piece of paper and crayons. And he would say, before every rehearsal, I want you to draw something you've never seen before. And we looked at him going, what? And all of a sudden we got going and we just started drawing and making the lines happen. And we created something we'd never seen before. And it opened up our minds and creativity and gave us that space. Record yourself. Wow, that's a big one, especially during COVID. We've all been on those Zoom meetings and we've heard enough of our own voice and seen enough of ourselves on the screen. But I'm going to take you to the next slide for a second, and I'm going to show you a colleague of mine that right when COVID started, she knew she was going to have to teach in this new world. And she was not one to record. It was not something, she did not like people hearing her own voice. And she said, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to take a risk first. And she ended up, this is Stephanie right here. Stephanie ended up recording a video 365 days in a row. She just finished like a week and a half ago. And here's a copy of one of her videos she was doing when she was supposed to be at Disneyland. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi friends, time for another song break. This one is dedicated to my colleague, Shane Smith. We would have been in Disneyland. Well, you wouldn't have been. You would have been here rehearsing for Matilda, but you were supposed to go to Disneyland with me and the choir kids. But oh well, all those different things didn't happen. But Shane Smith, this one's for you. You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old pal said. Son, you've got a friend in me.
Awesome. So yeah, it was beautiful. The news picked her up, and it's in the Flagstaff News of how she made her art and her expression and that risk of just getting on there and recording something that healed her daily, and not only her, but all those that tapped in and listened to her. So go for it, jump in and create your own journey and have fun. Something my wife did is she got on and she created her own playlist. She just started going back to, I'll date myself, back into the 80s and the 70s and 90s, and started picking out those cheesy songs and those dramatic songs and a song for almost any adventure. And she made herself a beautiful playlist as a tool when, I need a little bit of space to myself. She's got that playlist there for herself. And obviously, it's never too late to start playing a new instrument. I had a friend, Alfonso. He was an older gentleman, and he decided, I'm just going to take a class voice, and first time in his entire life. And this experience of singing for the first time at this level was watching him find that beauty and that joy. I can't even begin to tell you. He ended up singing mariachi down in Mexico for his mother at a huge party of about 200 people on a microphone and a big band. And it's something he never imagined himself doing, but he took that risk and started a new instrument. It's never too late. All right. We're going to talk about you and finding you in this process. At the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are, and you know what you want to be. So for me, I think ahead, and I'm going, I'm going to have this day. It's not going to be a good day. What am I going to do? So I want you to contemplate these questions for a second. Think about a time when a performance or artwork has impacted you the most. I like to reflect back on something beautiful. So if I have that in my mind, I know that's my go-to. I'm going to go to it, open it up, and look at my pictures, or maybe I have a recording of that, and I'm going to stick to that and remind myself of that beautiful moment. And this is something I ask all my students every year. I think of a song or an artwork that describes who you are. Now that's going to take some time to think, what song or artwork or photo or anything actually represents me the most? And if you have that during those tough times, you can go to that. You can sing it, you can look at it, you can draw more pictures of it, whatever you need to do, but that's you, and embrace that. It's an amazing part of your life. So for me, it's Never Never Land from Peter Pan. Who thought that would be my song? But it's something magical about that song that just represents who I am. Think of a song or a piece of art that represents who you want to be. Maybe that's what you want to be. So you have a goal in mind. You see the future. And don't put the weight on your shoulders that say, I have to be that person. No, that's just a goal. And it's something you appreciate and love. And accept this is where I am right now, and that's where I want to go. And that's awesome. I keep songs that are tender to me for those really, really tough moments, or a picture, and I pull it out, and I don't want to look at it very often. I don't want to listen to the song very often. It's too tender. But there are times in my life that I do, and it pulls me out of really dark places when I'm there. And then find something that'll help you sleep or make you laugh. I cannot tell you how powerful that statement is. Find something that'll make you laugh and smile, something that's going to calm you down. All right, the art of being vulnerable. Okay, most of us fail to understand this, as Brene Brown. If you get a chance, look at Brene Brown. She has so many powerful comments and quotes. But I like how she says it's the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. Oh my goodness, who is this kid? This is my son, Dallin. And before COVID, he was out in the marching band, and you could just see his passion right there. Playing his drum in the marching band, someone took this shot, and it ended up as a video online. And I got a call from Jimmy Kimmel, and we ended up on Jimmy Kimmel with Dallin, and he performed there. And this boy is just so vulnerable. He's willing to just take a risk. It's just passionate. He loves what he does. And it's an example to me to always remember that taking a risk like this it's just the best part of life. And then, thank you very much. The art, I think this is one of the powerful things about music, especially. We come together and we make music. We're collective, right? One of my past students and friends, Taylor Kirby, said the expression of art often requires that we come together in groups to practice and present the art collectively, which in turn creates connection between the participants. If you go to NPR and you type in "when choirs sing, many hearts beat as one," you'll see that they did an experiment where they took a bunch of high school students and they monitored their heart rate while they sang. And as they sang this guided breathing, their heart rate all started to slow down and calm down and relax, all together in unison. That guided breathing with others in the room expressing something together brought them to a better place. And it's proof. When you perform with others, you get that calm and that sense of belonging in your life. If you're in an ensemble, you have that belongingness, you have that social connection. You and yourself have to be vulnerable, and you have to trust and dig in. You're accountable for your own stuff. That makes you stronger. You're doing something great, something bigger than yourself, as well as when you're performing by yourself, the confidence that it takes, and the strength and the bonds that you make, and individual expression. And again, if you get the chance to perform, go for it. If you get the chance to be in an ensemble, I can't tell you how many blessings come from that. And one last thing in here I want to talk about is authenticity. And I love this quote. Authenticity is about presence, living in the moment with conviction and confidence, and staying true to yourself. An authentic person puts the people around them at ease, like a comforting old friend who welcomes us and makes us feel at home. So I'm going to tell you about a student I had for 5 years, Robbie. He had cerebral palsy. He came in and he wanted to join choir. So I said, "Okay, Robbie, will you want to sing for me?" And he starts singing. He goes, "Whoa!" And that's the sound that he made the first day. 5 years later, this young man with conviction and confidence had a story to tell. And I will never forget the day he sang with our choirs, and we were singing Silent Night. And all of a sudden you hear Robbie over the entire choir, "Silent Night." His whole body shaking. Everyone in that room was changed because Robbie had the confidence to live up and take a dream and take a risk and be authentic. My hope for you is that you can find that confidence and that place and that home and take a risk jump out there and let music, art, all those things take you to a better place. I promise when you think ahead and you make these plans, you have those go-tos. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me. So I'm going to pass this back to, I believe, Manuel. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor Johnston. I love the video you played, and at the end that it says that you don't walk alone. I think that's super important, and also what you said about that you used to write in high school to get through those times, and that resonated with me because it's actually what happened this past year. I've been writing almost every single night, so thank you for sharing that with us. I am going to introduce Dr. Beverly. He's our next guest speaker. I actually met Dr. Beverly at the student leadership retreat that was put together by Michael Green. He's actually in the background working some stuff. He has an amazing team. So thank you to Michael Green for introducing us. So when I was in a presentation with Dr. Beverly, there's this quote that resonated with me. I remember he said, "Freedom is never given by the powerful. It's always taken back by the powerless." So that resonated with me. That was powerful. I remember writing it down. And so I'm going to share a little bit of his background. He is a director of behavioral health sciences and counseling faculty at South Mountain Community College. He has 20 years of experience in his psychological field. He's been a college professor for 13 years. He's done amazing work with the community, executive director all the way from behavioral health programs, across the state, actually, including residential treatment for teens, therapeutic group homes, and couples family therapy, addiction, counseling, and other specialties. So his background is perfect for this event, and we're happy to have him. Take it away, Dr. Beverly.
Wow, thank you. And I already knew this was a great thing to be a part of when it was described to me some time ago. And then now to have already had the shared experiences that we've had together, I just want to express my gratitude that I have this moment with you all. I'm going to take a moment here and share my screen. And just give me one moment here. You think I would be better prepared for this. I must confess, and I don't know if I speak for everyone in saying this, but I am so zoomed out. I'm very much so looking forward to being able to be with folks again. But in the interim, definitely grateful I'm able to share this stuff with you all today. So what I'm talking about is music, mindfulness, and mental health. And I'm going to be mindful of the time here. And the first thing I want to do is we're going to do a mindful moment together. And so we're just all going to take a moment and take a cleansing breath in through our nose and then exhale through our mouth and scan the screen and find which emotion describes you right now. You don't have to share it. It might be hard to find the exact one, but you could start with the color. You notice colors on the bottom, the blue and the green, tend to be less energizing, and the red and the yellow tend to be more energizing. As far as our nervous system goes, it looks really similar if you're feeling drained on the blue or feeling calm on the green, if you're feeling chill on the green, or if you're feeling ashamed on the blue. Your nervous system looks kind of the same if you're feeling annoyed or if you're feeling inspired. And so right now, find where you're kind of at and know that I'll connect this to music shortly. But this is what we mean by mindfulness, is we stopped for a moment and we paid attention to what we were feeling. Maybe it was something in our body, maybe it was a thought in our mind. But pay attention to what color you are now as we then go into this idea of what mindfulness is. And so mindfulness, the reason why that emotional state may have been somewhat surprising, or maybe the first time you really thought about it in a little bit today, is because we don't usually spend our time in what we would call mindfulness. We're usually in one of two R's. That's where we spend most of our existence. We're either rehearsing or rehashing. Rehearsing means just in the time I've been talking, your mind has gone elsewhere. It either went into the future some things that we're anticipating, or maybe we're ruminating or still thinking about the past, but seldom do we find ourselves right here. Now, one of the things that mindfulness can be very helpful with is it can help us with the 2 C's. And the 2 C's refer to, quite simply, our area of concern and our area of control. During times like this, and you heard stories where people were sharing some real pain and suffering that's impacted their lives. I like to say that this has obviously impacted all of us. We're all in the same ocean, but we're not all in the same boat. So some of us have certainly been impacted by this differently. And during times like this, when it's caused a lot of disruption in our life and loss of life, a lot of our focus can be in the things that we're concerned about that are not in our control. But fortunately, when it comes to these 2 C's, there are some things that are in our area of control that we're also concerned about. One of those things is music and artistic expression. I'll just give an example from academics for a moment, since most, if not all of you, are students. One thing I could be concerned about as a student is everything being online and falling behind and having a hard time keeping track of these deadlines and due dates. And I have one instructor where they should have posted this already and it hasn't been posted yet, and that's why you can't, if it's not opened, but now I already got a 0 out of 30. That doesn't make sense. And we can start to feel like, well, how's that going to affect my financial aid? And I'm going to have to drop something. Music may have to suffer a little bit of that's area of concern, and that also can feel very powerless. But where we can take some control back is to find where the circles overlap, that area in the shade. That's our area of influence. So one thing that I could control is, well, we have Canvas access now, don't we? I didn't really appreciate that till it was gone for a couple weeks. I could get into Canvas right now. I could go into each class and look at the next upcoming due dates and major projects and list them bullet pointed for each section. I could have in my area of concern feeling disconnected from people I care about, and believe me, that's part of my area of concern. But I can also choose everything that comes out of my mouth is a decision I make. And I could choose to text someone immediately after this, my sister, who I haven't spoken to in a few days now. And that's something that's in my area of control. I could actually even just give her a call. And so these 2 C's are foundational to mindfulness, of actually having awareness of present experience with acceptance, to be in this moment now. Another definition of mindfulness is a state of being attentive to and aware of what's taking place in the present moment. Now, how can I connect that to music? Music's all about mindfulness. This reflected in memes that we see, that tell us what we do if we're not mindfully present when we're trying to appreciate music. I know for a fact I have started a song over because I wasn't enjoying it hard enough. Like, oh my God, that's my favorite part, and I wasn't even present for it. The other piece of it is I have a 17-year-old who likes to show me stuff that she's interested in musically. It's a great way to always connect with someone, even across generations. And there's been a few times where it's like, Dad, you're not really listening. The word listen and the word silent are spelled with the exact same letters. The word listen and the word silent are spelled with the exact same letters. That can't be a mistake, right? And so music is one of those things where we get incredibly engaged in it and consumed by it. And it's one of those things that's also, and this is the beauty of it, in our area of control. I don't even know if you can see me. This is my first time using this type of streaming thing, but I just happen to have my guitar next to me because I'm a therapist and I'm an amateur musician, and that means I'm a music therapist. And what I mean by that is, God, I could give you examples where I brought music into the county jails when I was the lead psychologist for all the mental health services in the entire correctional system in Maricopa County. And I got permission from the captain to bring my guitar in. And I usually would look at tattoos or things like that to figure out if I should play a Pantera song or figure out the bass line to a rap song. And oh my God, the impact it had on folks was so powerful, not just because it's a good way to connect with someone, but more importantly, it provided someone a moment where, despite everything going on in their life, they could be fully engaged and present in this moment. And there's something incredibly powerful about that. And music, I think, just lends itself to that. And, you know, one of the things Joey mentioned that was so important was this idea of sometimes listening to a song because it's sad. So this here's a poem from Roomie, The Guest House. I use this in my mindfulness-based work I do. I'm actually doing mindfulness-based stress management groups for students at South Mountain. And this is a poem that we look at very early in our group. And I'll read it. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. This idea that our feelings will find you. Your feelings are data. And any of those feelings that were on that first slide I showed you, where you were just looking at kind of where you're at right now, any of those feelings I could give you a song for that I would listen to cathartically. Even sitting with a song that I know is going to move me to tears. You know, the philosopher Camus said that live to the point of tears. Gibran, another poet, one of my favorites, he spoke of the importance of, what do you say, to know the pain of too much tenderness. All these feelings, I mean, there's a biblical basis for it if you wanted to look there, the idea that there's a season, you know, a time to weep, a time to mourn, a time to be joyous, a time to laugh. And so music is a phenomenal way where if we have this mindful moment where we're present with emotions that are uncomfortable, we can be fully engaged and mindful, but in a musical expression, either creating it or appreciating it. Those of you that want, like, if you want to be a music therapist, make sure you get a bilingual stipend for that. Because music is a language that is one that it transcends all others, and it can connect with anyone. You could have someone with a severe developmental disability and a functional IQ of like 25, or you could have someone who's profoundly gifted. And music could be a central aspect of how they experience the world, express emotions, and do so in a way that's in this present moment and engaged with these feelings. You see, these feelings, we need to embrace them. Rilke, my favorite poet, says, let everything happen to you. Beauty and terror, just keep going. No feeling is final. I will add to that, no feeling is fatal. I say this not just as a clinical psychologist, but no one's died from a feeling before. They can be potent and powerful, but they can also be experienced and felt in the real time, and we can find ways to express it that are what, you know, Freud called catharsis. Music and connection takes me to my sort of next point of its benefit. And this is where I want to speak about isolation. You see, music not only creates the opportunity for mindfulness, it creates the opportunity for meaningful connection with others. Isolation during this time is the scourge of our community. The research is overwhelmingly clear. According to the CDC, the biggest protective factor against suicide is social connection. Now, one of the horrific things about COVID-19 is we know that certain cultural groups have been hit by this harder, certain racial groups have been hit by this harder. One example is the Native American population or American Indian population in Arizona. Native Americans make up like 4.6% of the state's population, but they're like 20% of the COVID-19 deaths. And one of the reasons people point to, and it's an easy one to look at, is chronic healthcare conditions and access to healthcare, and that's certainly true. But a factor that's not discussed is in the Native community, and this is true of other cultural groups too. They're collectivistic in nature, and you have, and we saw this in Italy too. It's why they had a high fatality rate there. Is multiple generations living in the home. Now, sadly, that actually is a protective factor within that cultural group. The idea that there's strong connections to multiple generations, but here it is a major risk factor. And so you have people who are having to pull away and isolate. Music allows for a way for us to share that. You saw in the prior presentation examples of people using it in a way that is not only expressive and cathartic, but communal and creating a shared meaningful experience. And here's where we're just going to watch a little 3-minute clip that describes how that experience can go.
This is a little story I'd like to call The Curse. The song Alive, which was on our first record, and it was the first song we ever wrote as a group, and a song that we played hundreds of times live. It's really, it's been transformed through the years, and it's not so much how we play it or the arrangement, but more the interpretation. So the original story being told in the song is that of a young man being made aware of some shocking truths. And one was that the guy he believed to be his father while growing up was not. And hard truth number 2 was that the real father had passed away a few years before. Now, as if adolescence wasn't tough enough. So when the mom relays this information of the real father's death it leaves the kid, who's not terribly stable at that point in his development, plenty confused. And I know this because I knew the guy. Not well, but I knew him. I mean, the guy was me, but I barely knew me then. There was to be honest, I was barely there to be known. And so he takes all this news as a curse. You know, fine, you tell me these secrets, I'm supposed to forgive, but I got to figure a way, you know, to live with this. And fine, the dad's dead, but I'm still alive, and I got to deal with this. So it was a curse, you know, I'm still alive. So cut to years later, and we're playing to larger and larger audiences, and they're responding to this chorus in a way that you never thought. And you know, folks are jumping down in the aisles and using their bodies to express themselves and belting it out, you know, singing along, you know, I'm still alive, you know, in mass, you know. So every night when I'd look out on this sea of people reacting in their own positive interpretation, it was really incredible. The audience changed the meaning of these words. And when they sing I'm still alive, you know, it's like they're celebrating. And here's the thing. When they changed the meaning of those words, they lifted the curse.
So you see there a song where Eddie Vedder put pen to paper and expressed pain, and he told the story, the heartache involved in that. And then what we also see is when it was reflected back to him, really people just repeating the same words, but expressing it through their meaningful lived experience. It lifts the curse and changes the meaning of those words. That's what happens in counseling and in therapy, and each one of you has access to counseling services at your campus. And the beauty of it is when I do that work in the community, people have to have a diagnosis. I charge a certain amount an hour. This is part of your student experience, and you don't have to be sick to get better. You don't have to have a mental health diagnosis. You just have to have the willingness to explore aspects of yourself and have a more healthy lived experience. Last thing I'll share in terms of expression, is related to, I mentioned Rilke, my favorite poet, and one of my favorite works of his it's entitled Letters to a Young Poet. And what happened was, God, you know, Rilke wrote about in his time matters of the heart, pain, suffering, loss, spirituality, art, poetry. He wrote all these, you know, incredible things about the human experience, and consequently a lot of young people fell in love with his work. And there was this young poet studying at the same academy that Rilke was studying at like decades before. And I'll just like give you the Reader's Digest version. Basically, like, I guess years later, I think they found these letters that Rilke had written, and they found, I think it was like the grandkids of the young poet, if you will, because what happened was this young poet decided to write Rilke a letter. And just to give you an example, it would be like if my grandkids were great grandkids are going through my belongings long after I'm gone, and they find out that great grandpa had a letter correspondence with Kurt Cobain in the 90s, you know, where I was writing about music. They'd be like, oh my God. And so these 10 letters that Rilke wrote back to this young poet turned into a book, Letters to a Young Poet. And in one of the letters that the young man wrote, we don't have his letters, but we can kind of guess what they were based on Rilke's response. One of the letters must have had something like, gosh, your life must be incredible. You're such an amazing poet. You're so expressive. You're so wise. Your life must be full of so much joy and sadness. And I'm going to do my best to quote a portion of letter number 8. And it goes as follows. This is what Rilke's response was. Letter number 8 in Letters to a Young Poet. He says, do not assume that he who seeks to comfort you lives untroubled amongst the soft and simple words that sometimes do you good. His life has much difficulty and sadness. Were it otherwise, he would have never been able to find those words. I'll say it again. Do not think that he who seeks to comfort you lives untroubled amongst the soft and simple words that sometimes do you good. Her life has much difficulty and sadness. Were it otherwise, she would have never been able to find those words. To put it differently, the pain that so many of you have experienced this past year, those experiences, and this is to you who are artists or you who are expressive in any capacity, it has certainly increased your ability to express and share that with others who need to share theirs with you. And that's the communal nature of what expression is as well, is it can't exist in isolation. I appreciate that we actually saw clips that showed snippets of a musical performance for a second. You know, when they show people or have people listen to recordings of a computer playing a piano piece perfectly and a human being playing it, people prefer the human being. Even if it's like a classically trained pianist who is in a conservatory at 2, they can all, there's something about the fingers, right? And the touch and the humanity of it. And so the difference between illness and wellness is I and we. It's that simple. It's that hard. Because as we know from mindfulness, mindfulness is incredibly simple and it's incredibly hard. So I'll leave you with one more thing to take control of. If I asked you all, because I heard some people talking about their sleep being disturbed, if I said it happens to be tomorrow that I will give you $1 million if you can fall asleep on your own, no chemicals, by 6 p.m. And if you lose, you have to pay me $10,000 cash. If you don't have it, you're bankrupt. Most people don't take that bet. However, if all I change is the AM to the PM, and I said I'll give you that same amount of money, I could even make it, instead of 6 a.m., 5 a.m. Everyone takes that bet. Now, why do I share that with you? It sounds like a stupid bet. Like, yeah, I'll wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Here's the thing. If you're not sleeping well at night, if you wake up at 5 a.m. for 3 consecutive mornings, 95 out of 100 of you are going to find yourself getting pretty tired around 9 p.m. If you try to control when you fall asleep, that's area of concern that's outside of something you can directly impact. You're going to be lying there hearing the clock tick. But if you try to control when you wake up, well, that's the powerless taking some power back. That's area of concern and area of control. You could all do it tomorrow. You could all do it tomorrow. And the 95% success rate is true. A bet that you would take, that you would hope I would offer you, versus a former, which would be a curse. Seriously, guys, did we just, like, did we just become best friends is what I'm wondering. This was an awesome experience. I'm going to conclude my time here because I haven't even been watching the clock, but there feels like this organic resolution of some things that I could share that hopefully speak to those of you that have an instrument in the room with you and those of you who can draw stick figures. There's something within each one of your control right now. It's something you could probably even do when this thing concludes that will impact your life and the lives of others. And so in doing so, appreciate these mindful moments and also appreciate the power you have. That concludes my time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beverly. You have a beautiful way with words, and I thought it was funny that you mentioned Rilke because I have this book of his. I actually read Letters to a Young Poet, but I wanted to read a poem that made me think of one, and I pulled it off my bookshelf. But it's, "The hour is striking so close above me, so clear and sharp, that all my senses ring with it. I feel it now. There's a power in me to grasp and give shape to my world. I know that nothing has ever been real without my beholding it. All becoming has needed me. My looking ripens things, and they come toward me to meet and to be met." And I don't know, I just thought of that one, but I loved it, and I think you're present. Everyone, just everything everyone has had to say has been amazing, and so I'm really excited to see what our audience has to ask you all. And so I'll start with the first question. What does gratitude mean to you?
Well, I think one of the hardest things for me when I was a performer in college was when someone said, thank you for that amazing performance. I would just back away and I didn't know what to say. And then I realized that person just gave me a compliment and they went out of their way to say thank you. And I had to turn around and look at them and say, I owe you that thank you for saying something to me, and just taking in and being thankful for everything that you do. Don't judge yourself. Take the weight off your shoulders. Another thing Brene Brown says is perfectionism is a hustle. Okay, be thankful for everything that you do, and gratitude can mean taking a moment and writing it down and sending a message to someone. So it's the best service that you can do is say thank you to someone.
And what I would share to that too is gratitude is an action, not a feeling. And what I mean by that is there's a level of intentionality that goes with it. One of the things that we do in our mindfulness group, and it's something that I encourage people to practice at times in their life, is a gratitude journal. They did a study I'll briefly describe where they had 3 groups and they wanted to look at the impact of journaling on emotional well-being, which is very relevant to the topic today, right? And the group number 1 was instructed to write 3 times a week for at least 20 minutes and to write about things that they were proud of. And we all have things that if we reflect on our lives that we, those of you who put this experience on, I'm so blown away. And you could find other things, accomplishments, things on the horizon. The second group was asked, it's almost like a control condition to, same frequency and duration 3 times a week, 20 minutes, but open-ended, just whatever comes to your mind, right? Open-ended journaling. And the third group, same instructions, same frequency and duration, except they were instructed to write about things that they were grateful for. And they measured emotional well-being and things like that. And at the end of the study, a couple things that were noteworthy. Overwhelmingly, the gratitude group was the group that experienced the biggest gains in emotional well-being. But what's also noteworthy is writing about what you were proud of, you may as well just be coloring, because it had the same equivalent of just writing whatever came to your mind. That's not to dismiss just open-ended journaling. And usually people who speak to its benefit have really integrated it into their life in a meaningful way. But it does show when folks go through the process of periodically reflecting on people they're grateful for, things in their life they're grateful for. I was at a homily one time where we instructed to go home and count our light switches and count our faucets. It's like, this priest is so silly, dude. You know, okay, they're 1, 2, 3. Now let's go to the faucets. And then you go back to the, you know, to mass next Sunday, and you find out that 1 in 5 people don't have like running water or electricity. And you realize you couldn't even remember how many you had. I used to do that exercise with inmates, by the way. They walk out of that session going, shit, really? I got it better than 1 in 5? Yeah. You know, give a man search for meaning, and read Viktor Frankl speaking about finding meaning and purpose even in a Nazi death camp. Great book. So I don't mean to be so long-winded about it, but I want people to know that gratitude is a practice, and everyone here could do even that little exercise I kind of just described now. And in doing so, you should anticipate that there would be some improvements in your emotional well-being.
Thank you both. Those great answers from both of you guys. The next question is actually directed towards Professor Johnston. It says, what music or art courses would you recommend for those who are a little rusty in the craft but wish to implement music or art into our growth?
I love it. We have something for everybody. I know not only here at Chandler-Gilbert, but throughout the entire district. And what amazing professors and adjuncts that we have that really cater to all levels and all ages and all, they're so good at it. And I would say there's class voice, class piano, class guitar. Those are the beginning basics of things. We have a Broadway solos class that we have people that are beginners in that all the way to professionals that enjoy that community. It has a really strong community taught by Jennifer Nagy and Jeff Stevens. Even our Dr. Peterson has taken that course here at Chandler-Gilbert. It's so beautiful. So there are performing arts ensembles of all kinds. And just because you think you're a beginner, you might be ready for one of those ensembles. And talk to Adam Roberts, myself, Ted Goddard, and we will find a place for you. I had an individual for years, had not been doing anything for a very, very long time. And in fact, was very sore about music in their life. And I encouraged them to come audition for a musical. And lo and behold, they came back. And one of the comments they made on Facebook to me the other day was how meaningful that was. And to jump back in after 20 years and try again. And he found a new love for music that has stayed with him daily now. So yeah, there's a place for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next question is for Dr. Beverly. How do you open or initiate the space to allow others to freely express themselves?
So I think one of the things that is important to remember, and to all those counselors in training out there or future music therapists, we focus a lot on strength-based services, solution-focused stuff. I mentioned earlier, you don't have to be sick to get better. And one of the mantras of strength-based work is, what's right with you will help with what's wrong with you. And at one point, there was even a movement in our field where we didn't spend too much time even talking about pain, because let's focus on solutions and strengths and how to help this person overcome what they're going through. And there was something really lost in that. And what you need to do, and this is what I do when I train therapists, is I give it to them in 3 words, and I say, glorify the struggle. Glorify the struggle. A lot of my early training was in Jungian analysis, and I was clinically supervised for a year by someone who was a Jungian analyst exclusively. And Jung talked about things in the collective unconscious, and he talked about myths, and he was actually really ahead of his time when it comes to cross-cultural psychology, because regardless of where you look in human history, there's these themes, the hero, the mother figure, there's these thematic elements. And what that also means is you have to, and this is the hardest thing for therapists to do, is you have to bear witness to people's suffering. And creating a space for it is often doing some of our own work to put ourselves in the space that we need in order to bear witness to someone's pain and suffering. A quick study I'll just share that they did was they actually looked at what happens, and these were counselors in training. If you had counselors in training do mindfulness meditation for about 10 minutes before their session, and you know what the dependent variable was? Not the therapist, client outcomes, their depression, like with the Beck Depression Inventory, or their anxiety or whatever. And as you might imagine, these aren't licensed therapists in training who did mindfulness meditation 10 minutes prior to their session, and their clients had better outcomes. I know enough about my colleague here who's presenting that he does mindful stuff with his students and using music to help people be present in the classroom, those kinds of things. It's a similar dynamic when it comes to people coming in to share some broken parts of their life where there's probably shame attached to that suffering too. And so I think a lot of the lesson is for therapists or anyone who's going to be present for someone. I'd recommend a great book. It's called The Lost Art of Listening. It's from the 90s. It's over 25 years old. And usually when someone's telling their story, we'll find ourselves drifting off a little bit. That reminds me of a time when, And so last little quick story. When I was the lead psychologist at the county jails, one of the psychologists I supervised, he was near retirement, late 60s, and he learned Spanish because he was Mormon, and he did like an LDS mission when he was 19. That's noteworthy because that was like 40 years ago. And his Spanish was like proficient, and every now and then, it was only in a crisis, if there wasn't the Spanish-speaking psychologist at that unit, it'd be Dr. Flowers became Dr. Flores real quick. And I remember talking with him. I was like, those must be such hard sessions because it's not your native language, and clinical Spanish is different than yet. And he goes, you know what, Billy? I swear they might be some of my best sessions. It's like, what are you talking about? And he goes, because I have to listen so carefully. I have to hang on every word they say. You see, guys, I don't know if you noticed, I'm fluent in English. And that's why if someone's talking to me, I might be able to zone out for a second and then come back to that train. Not if they're speaking a language that I learned when I was a teenager that I don't use. I'm going to have to pay attention to verbal, nonverbal. I'm going to have to be completely present. And so it comes back to mindfulness. So in short, I practice mindfulness before every session. I practiced mindfulness before coming here. It's why I was in the wrong room 5 minutes before it started. You noticed how it almost seemed like I had a drink in my hand. Well, it's because thank God 20 minutes before that, you should have seen me going, where is everybody? And so again, forgive the long-winded answer, but that's how I prepare for any encounter in which I need to suspend my own judgment and needs for a moment to be truly present for another person.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Beverly. That was pretty amazing. Another question, I think this will, I'll let you both answer this one. It says, what inspired you to choose your line of work? So Professor Johnston, if you want to go first, and then Dr. Beverly can.
The simple answer is every day inspires me to do the work I do. It hasn't stopped. I think that's something really important in life. Find something that's going to inspire you to be who you want to be every single day. I'm blessed that I made that choice early on. And I found how music and the performing arts touches the lives of somebody else. I didn't do it to be on stage. I did it because the people that are out there in the audience and how that art affects them. It really, I saw that. It was powerful. I saw what it was like to work hard at something. I was in a musical that was written by a student. And after I experienced that, I threw myself into that show. Every bit. I was this 18-year-old. I studied everything I could about that show. And after that show, I looked at that set, we're tearing it down, and I just broke down in tears because I knew what it was like to work hard at something. And that inspired me to be a teacher because I wanted every single student that I taught to learn that concept, that working hard at something is going to make you, it's going to build you beyond those challenges every single day. And so I became a teacher. And what do I get to teach? My passion, music. And I am the lucky one. I am spoiled. I get to get up every single day and teach my passion. So please, whatever you do in life, make it something that inspires you and make it something that serves the people around you. That way I can't say enough about that. So yeah, that I am passionate about what I do.
Thank you so much. Dr. Beverly?
Yeah, and so I mean that's so well said. And when I do career counseling at South Mountain, I usually break it down into two things: find out what you love to do, and then find someone to pay you for it. And myself as a helping professional, and this is what I share with those who are usually in my classroom, whether it's at the undergraduate or the doctorate level, for whatever reason or reasons, the universe has nominated you to help other people. And so like the word vocation, it comes from the same word that we get the word vocal. It literally means to call, right? And we were talking about Rilke in the letters. He talks about, you're compelled to write what you're compelled to with it. And when it comes to this work, and I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you about 80% of the people who enter the helping professions, do so because of things that they had to overcome in their own lives. And that takes us back to letter number 8, that sometimes having had your life touched by sorrow or impacted by trauma enables you to then help other people learn and grow and heal who may be navigating through struggles that are similar to or even quite different than yours. And so last poet I'll mention, I guess, is Gibran, who I mentioned earlier. And he said, like Freud actually said that love and work are the two things that we need in life. And Gibran basically said that he was being redundant, because Gibran said work is love made visible. And if you cannot work with love, but only with distaste, it is better that you should sit at the gates of the temple and take alms of those who work with joy. For if you bake bread with indifference, you bake a bitter bread that feeds half of man's hunger. And if you sing, though as angels, and love not the singing, you muffle man's ears to the voices of the day and the voices of the night. And so at the end of the day, it all must be done with love. It all must be done with love. And so what each one of you, if this is what you're compelled to do, then you should find yourself blessed and express gratitude that you found your calling.
Thank you. I think we all needed to hear that everyone needs to love one another. It's been a divisive time. So I think that should be a message that is projected just unilaterally everywhere. So thank you for that. Our next question, I know Dr. Beverly, you went over this a little bit, but maybe Professor Johnston, you can talk about it from a musical perspective. What are some tips you would recommend to be more mindful?
Well, I've been to Mindful Mondays here at Chandler-Gilbert, and breathing is something that we don't think about enough. And I think if we want to be mindful, take some breaths in, take some real deep breaths in, and breathe in the beauty that's around you and the positive things that are around you, that gratitude Dr. Beverly talked about, and exhale all that other stuff, that junk, let it out. For me, I'm surrounded by music all the time. I'll be honest, I actually have had times where I had to stop the music and I had to just listen to silence and take in that silence and listen. Same letters, listen and silent, same exact words, just spelled differently. And we have to take that time to be silent and think about nothing sometimes. Just think about nothing for a moment. Let it all out. So that when we come back to that real world, we appreciate it. And it's one of the comments I didn't say that someone made on Facebook is, rather than how has the art of expression affected you? He said, well, how has it done since I can't go out there and perform and can't do that? I haven't been able to do that for a year. They're ready to go out there and do it. They've had time off. They've had that silence. And now that they've taken that breath and they're ready to go, I want this more than I've ever wanted it in my life. And I think that's, for me, silence is golden. And that's how and those big breaths help me get in there.
Thank you so much. Silence is golden. I really loved what you said there at the end. So thank you so much for answering everybody's questions. We are moving on to the part where Brianna and I are going to be very vulnerable. We're going to share some of our work, and we're both excited and nervous at the same time, but I hope you guys enjoy this. This is one of the things that I wrote at night. And so hopefully you guys can get some tips here on how to cope with things and how I cope with life pretty much. So here it goes. There are moments in life where you can't find yourself, where the road seems long and the light very dim, yet there's still light. There are moments in life where our body and mind feel disconnected, yet that one thing that will connect them is nowhere to be found. There are moments in life where your dreams and aspirations seem so far out of reach, yet you are just a few actions away from them. There are moments in life where you are waiting for that one thing to happen, or maybe that one person. And when that person or thing arrives, you think it will change your life forever. Yet you ask yourself, when? When is it getting here? When you can't find yourself, express it. When the road seems long, find peace in knowing that you are moving forward. When the light is dim, know that the people around you are the light that you are looking for. And when your dreams or aspirations seem so far out of reach, know that there's a life in between you and those goals, and that life is waiting for you to learn from it and waiting for you to live it. And when you are waiting for that one thing or that one person to arrive and fix all of your problems, you have to know that that person is you. So find peace in expressing yourself. Find yourself through art, through music, through writing, through singing, through therapy, through friends, through family, and even your community. Know the importance of expressing yourself. And the moment you do, you add to your life, or you simply start living. So again, a little bit of a reflection on that small piece I wrote is that one of the biggest things in life, and I'm a political junkie, and so it applies to all the aspects of my life pretty much. As much as we are pessimistic throughout the day, and we know that the news are amplified and we see a lot of negative stuff around us. So as much as I read about it through the day, because of school or many other different things, if I'm pessimistic throughout the day, I have to be optimistic at night. And so to everybody watching, I want to tell you that the only way we get through these times is through solidarity, through collective good, and by knowing that we have a moral obligation to care and understand one another. Be grateful for the things you have, and just remember that optimism always beats fear, and we can only show our love and gratitude through expression. So find yours, find the many forms in which you can express yourself with. It's there within reach for everybody, and I hope this has helped even in the smallest way. So thank you so much. I'll pass it over to Brianna, and she's going to share her amazing song. So thank you.
That was beautiful. Oh my gosh. I literally am trying not to cry right now. I love Manuel. I met him in Spiff, and we've connected so much. And so the fact that you get to see a part of him that his close friends get to see is amazing for me. And so I started composing maybe like a half a year ago. So I'm pretty new at it, but I love to play piano, and I composed this song, and I'll, Mike, if you want to play it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I titled it Sisyphus. I don't know if you guys know of the Greek myth, but he was a Greek king who was punished, and so it's the guy who's like rolling the stone up the hill continuously, but it keeps dropping back down. And I don't know, the song kind of felt like it keeps pushing and pushing, and then you hear a new set of chords and it goes back and you're pushing back and forth. And I felt like it was fitting for this because sometimes we feel like we're pushing and we don't have energy anymore. Like this week has been super hard for me. And I know for Manuel and just everyone, our professors are crazy busy. And so when you feel like you can't push further, just know that there's people around you that care about you and that you matter and that your reality is everyone else's reality too. And your life doesn't just belong to you, it belongs to everyone else too. So nurture it and take care of it and just love others. I hope you liked that, and I hope that this can inspire you to create something of your own. And we're going to transition on to our concluding slides now. We want to thank you all for being with us. So I am going to share my screen, and Manuel is going to start. So
Thank you so much, Brianna. That was amazing.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan. So,
okay, let's see.
So before you guys go, we want to share a few things with you all. For all the students that are watching, we want to highlight some of the things that every Maricopa Community College offers. It's as simple as going to your prospective college website. On the search bar, if you type in community resources, you're going to find a lot of stuff that can be very helpful to you. So each college offers a list of resources all the way from Valley community support organizations, Native American resources, education resources, family resources, and it even links some websites that are going to help with legal and immigration resources as well, tips on housing and avoiding foreclosures. So these are some of the amazing things that all the community colleges offer. They're there for you, and remember that all those services are free. Another thing is that you guys do see on this slide is we show the number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, as well as Community Bridges. Community Bridges is actually an organization from Arizona, and so these are both free, 24/7 access, and for people coping with crisis. Community Bridges does some crisis and substance abuse concerns, so please make note of them. Feel free to take a screenshot, save those numbers on your phone. Those are available to you. But most importantly, and this is what one of the things that Dr. Beverly highlighted, is each campus offers counseling services for academic and personal counseling. So here's a list of the 10 colleges. Please take a screenshot, save your college, save that number. If you ever need anything, please reach out. And they're there. Remember, it's included with your tuition. And so these are very important resources to have, and reach out if you need help. It's truly important. So thank you all. Thank you all for being here.
Yes, and we just want to thank you to everyone who made this possible. Everyone that's listed here on the screen, from the IT department, Mike who's putting this together, and Christina and Mike Green, and just everyone, and of course our professors from SPIF, and of course our speakers, Professor Johnston and Dr. Beverly. Thank you both so much for being here. And then lastly, we have a survey. If you could fill this out, it's linked in the description. This would really help us just see if you guys like this event, or if you need help with something, you can type a question there that maybe you didn't feel comfortable asking in the chat. So fill that out for us, and then follow CGCC on Instagram. I'm going to be doing a poll after this just to see a response and get more audience participation. And lastly, I love this quote by Roomie. It's funny that Dr. Beverly chose him as well in his presentation, but it's "Stop acting so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion." And I think it's really fitting, because we can think so lowly of ourselves, but we're really amazing. And I know you guys are all amazing, and just thank you for being here. So just thank you to everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you, Dr. Beverly, Professor Johnston, our audience. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.